And let's see if everything's working. Once I see that we have a good connection, we are good to go. All right, looks like we are good to go. Guys, welcome back to another live stream. I think I'm on about a 20-second delay here, but you guys should see me in just a moment. Welcome back to another tutorial. First of all, before we get started here, I just want to ask, how is everybody doing? What have you guys been working on? Have you been enjoying the live streams? Hopefully you have. I'm really excited about today's live stream. I'm somewhat of a novice at Geometry Nodes, but I know enough to at least kind of get started and help you guys get started as well. So I'm going to teach you what I know, and I'm going to show off a couple of projects of my own. And we're going to be making something that's kind of like this today. It's a pretty relatively straightforward setup. We're going to be using some instancing, a couple of different nodes you may or may not have heard of, and I'm going to show you how to make this customizable as well with our group input node. So there's kind of a lot of different things we're going to be working on here, but I'm really excited to kind of hop into it. Just again, to kind of showcase what we're working on. This is kind of like this little miniature city that I set up using some basic shapes and primitives. But I want to show you guys kind of how the instancing works, how the randomizers work, setting materials, things like that. I just thought you guys would be able to get a lot of value out of a really kind of simplified project. So let's go ahead and start completely from scratch. Now I do have my handy nodes set up right here. This is actually the complete node setup for what you see right here. So for those of you who just want this exact setup, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in so you can screenshot this. Okay, this is the exact setup that I'm using right now. The only difference is, the only thing you don't have right now is the shapes that I've created that we're instancing. So if you just want to quickly screenshot this, you're more than welcome. That way, I don't waste your time. If you're just looking for the nodes, here they are. But I am going to break down kind of how this all works, and I want to talk about how it's customizable. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of this. I'm going to minimize this, and we're going to reference that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and start off with a completely new document. Now, as you guys can see, I finally fixed my webcam, so you can actually see me now, which is nice. We're going to start off with just something really simple. We want to go ahead and create an object to instance everything onto. So I'm just going to add in this plane right here. I'm going to tab into edit mode and just give this a few subdivisions, maybe something like that, just to start out with. You guys can go crazy with it. I'm going to start out with something simple so I can kind of explain how the geometry node setup works. I'm going to head over to my geometry nodes area here. Now, I don't really need this part on the left, so I'm just going to kind of collapse that a little bit, maybe just enough so that you guys can still see my face. And that'll just be a panel we don't touch. Very first thing you want to do is click on your plane, right? The object you want to add your node setup to. Click on new, and you're going to be presented with these two default nodes. We have our group input and our group output. Pretty straightforward. Your group input is basically just the mesh you're starting with, right? And you can get the geometry of that mesh from that point, and then the output is what you will get on the other end. So there's a lot of different things we're going to do here. I'm actually going to pull up my node setup on the other end so we can kind of recreate this a little bit. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about instancing. Now, there's a lot of ways to instance things onto points. Very first thing most people do is they'll do mesh to points. They'll go ahead and do that, right? And then you get all these points based on the amount of vertices in your mesh. Pretty simple. Another way to do this is mesh to curve. A lot of people will do mesh to curve. I think mesh to points is easiest, but I actually want to show you guys a new method that I'm using that isn't that new, but it's called distribute points on faces. And what that's going to do is it's going to add a bunch of little points to each face of our plane. So I'm going to plug my geometry into my mesh, and then my points into my geometry. Now you'll notice we only have the points here, and they're a little bit randomized, which is actually what we want for our city generator. But in order to also retain that plane, we want to add a join geometry node right after this, okay? And we want to plug our original geometry back into that join geometry. And what that's going to do is it's going to take our plane and then add anything in between that we added. And I like to just keep this way off to the right, because we're going to use that a lot. We're also going to use this group input quite a lot as well. Now what we need to do is we need to figure out, what do we want to do with those points? Well, we want to instance onto those points. So I'm going to grab an instance on points node, plug that in right here. And you can see that as you drop the node in, for those of you who aren't familiar with the shader editor or the node editor, it kind of just plugs everything in for you by default, which is really a nice feature. It saves a lot of time. So now we have our points hooked up to our points, and then our instance hooked up to geometry. Now you'll notice our points went away. That's because we need to select an object to instance onto these points. Very easy way to do this. I'm just going to search for cube, and I just want to show you how this works. If we plug this cube into our instance, we'll see a bunch of cubes appear. I'm just going to go ahead and make these smaller, 0.2, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. Now you can see we have a bunch of cubes that appear on top of those points, right? And you'll notice right here we have this density value. We can increase or decrease the density of these objects. So you can kind of see where we're going with this, right? How we can actually start to piece all of this together. And this is going to be really fun. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this because we're going to be able to create our own custom city with our own custom objects. Now you see there's values for everything, right? We can modify all of this stuff and make this completely customizable. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we have our geometry node set up, right? It's acting as a modifier. When we start to add these different attributes, we'll be able to customize them very easily. So right now, we're just using some simple cubes, right, for our instancing, and I'm just kind of showing you how this works. Now, what we can do from here, right, is we can start to modify these instances. For example, we can do scale instances, right? We're going to add this node in. So right after our instance on points, I'm going to plug this node in, and you won't notice any changes because all the values are set to 1. But here's where the randomizer comes in. This is where it gets really fun, right? We can go ahead and add in a random value node, and there's a lot you can do with this. And I'm just going to simply plug my random value into my scale. But before I do that, I want to add a combine x, y, z. And what this is going to allow us to do is just change the scale of the height. So if I plug my value into our z factor, and then I'll just make x and y 1, I'll now plug my vector into the scale. And you'll notice how now we have this random variation in height. And then if we adjust our minimum and maximum value for our random, we can adjust the minimum height and kind of that maximum height. And it'll pick values in between and assign them randomly to our objects. Now right now, remember, we're only instancing a cube. Where it gets fun is where we start instancing a collection. And that's what I'm going to show you next. So let's go ahead and go back to layout real quick. I'm going to make a new collection. I'm going to right click in my hierarchy up here on the top right, new collection. I'm just going to call this instance. Oh my gosh, that's all caps. Sorry guys. Instancers. Okay. And now I'm going to shift A. I'm going to add a cube. Okay. I'm just going to scale this down. I'm going to hide my original plane so you guys can see what I'm adding. I'm going to add a cone. Okay, I'm going to scale that down. And then I'm going to add a sphere. And I'm going, oops, that was the wrong type of sphere. Where is the right type of sphere? There we go, UV sphere. Okay, now I just want to have 3 primitives, and they're all stacked on top of each other. They're all zeroed out. What we're going to do next is we're just going to hide all of these instances. We're going to unhide our plane. We're going to go back to geometry nodes. And now instead of using a cube as an instancer, we're going to use a collection. So I'm going to click on this node, X to delete, Shift A, collection info. Okay. Now our collection was called instancers. So I'm going to go ahead and select instancers here. I'm going to click that, right? I'm going to update the instancer with our collection. Now you'll see we kind of have this crazy looking scattered thing. We're going to go ahead and make sure separate children is checked. And then we're going to also make sure pick instance is checked as well. And what this is going to allow us to do is actually have randomized values for each thing. So in other words, there won't be a cube and a sphere in the same location. We'll be able to choose different locations. I'm also going to choose, instead of random for our distribute points, I'm going to choose Poisson disk, or Poisson disk, however you say that. And we can also increase this value right here, which is the distance maximum. So how far away do we want objects to be from each other? Right now, they're all overlapping. If we don't want them to overlap, we increase this distance, and now they shouldn't be allowed to overlap, which is a really nice feature. Now, how do we randomize this? Well, let's go ahead and duplicate our random value. Now, for our random value, I'm going to choose an integer. Now, how many pieces do we have in our instance collection? Well, we have 1, 2, 3. So you just pick the value right below that, which is 2, and that'll be our maximum value. And then we just simply plug this into the instance index. And now what we have is it'll either choose from one of those 3 objects to place on each vertice. Now again, we can adjust the density still and the scale of all of our objects. Now watch what happens if I subdivide this a couple more times. Right? You'll start to notice that things change a lot. We can also continue to adjust this density and the distance maximum. The lower that value is, the more likely chance that they'll kind of start to overlap. So you want to keep that value relatively high, maybe 0.02, or sorry, relatively, yeah, a little bit higher than that. That looks good. That way they're not overlapping. Now you'll also notice they're kind of all over the place, right? They're not really where we want them to be. So make sure when you have your objects selected that they're zeroed out, which they are. So we're good to go there. Now with our plane, we also want to kind of scale these instances randomly, which we're already doing. And I think for our default value right here, right, we have 1 and 1. I'm going to do something like 0.3 and 0.3. So they're quite smaller, right? Where they're a little bit smaller than we need them to be, which is perfect. And I also want to increase this density. All right, and I want to lower the distance minimum. Now you can kind of see how everything's quite random, right? So this is where it gets really fun, because now instead of these spheres, these cones, and these cubes, we can instance our own custom objects. So I'm going to show you how that works next, and then we're going to get into translation as well. And this is going to be quite fun. I promise you guys are going to love this. I'm going to give this a quick save. I'm just going to call this example 2. That way we have it saved. All right, we don't lose our work here. Now, geometry nodes in this type of setup isn't too complex in terms of like intensity on your computer, so we should be all right here. I like to use basic primitive shapes. I'm gonna hide our plane. I'm gonna go back to our instancers. I'm gonna hide all of these objects, and I'm gonna add in a cube. I'm going to scale it way down, and we're just going to make this into kind of like a fake city skyscraper. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, go to my face select and inset here. I'm just going to extrude this up, and we're going to make kind of like an Empire State Building type of shape here. Inset a little bit up, and then we're going to inset this a lot and up. So now this is kind of like one building, right? So what's great is as long as this is in the correct collection, which it is now, it's in the instancers collection, I'm just going to call this whatever I want, building 1. Name doesn't really matter, but if we go over to geometry nodes, right, and we put our plane back, you'll notice now we have our cities, right? You see these little buildings right here that we created, and they're all scaled differently. And maybe you think, you know what, that's a little bit too much. Let's knock down that scale a little bit. Well, you can do that right here with our randomized value. You'll notice how they're also through the floor. We can also change that as well by adjusting the instance translation. So I'm going to go ahead and move everything over, and I'm just going to kind of separate this out so you guys can really see the nodes here. All right, I'm going to add in a translate instances node, pop that in right here. And then all we have to do is just raise this Z value, and we can kind of put these a little bit more on the floor here. That's perfect. And it all has to do kind of with the object origin, but you can kind of see how we have some underneath, and we're going to fix that later. But right now we have buildings on top, which is great. Now what we can do is we can go back to our instancers, and we can start to really create our buildings however we want. I'm thinking this sphere here, we don't need that, right? This cube, let's turn this into a separate building here. Let's go to our cube. Let's tab into edit mode. Maybe we extrude this a little bit, right? We have some kind of like weird office building. Maybe we subdivide this, you know, pull some of these edges up. And we just have this kind of abstract building, right? That just kind of has a little bit of geometry to it that gives it some more complexity, right? Maybe we have this area subdivided, right? Maybe we inset a few of these like this. Take these, extrude, right? Now we have something that's kind of a little bit more of like an abstract building, but it still reads enough that it looks good, right? And scale that in, maybe give that some dimension there. Again, this is just me kind of experimenting, right? Okay, and we'll inset, and then we'll give this kind of a peak like that. Now we have this kind of abstract building from a primitive, and we can go ahead and instance this as well. The only thing that we have in here that doesn't make sense is our cone, so I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to add one more object. I'm just going to add a basic cube, scale it in, and I think I'll just make this one kind of have an inset like before, maybe something like that, and then we can take these, right, oops, and we can subdivide these. Let's see if it'll let me subdivide these. There we go. And then we can just randomly select these areas here, and we can extrude them. And now we have this really complex looking thing, right? We can extrude some of these edges, and now we have like sort of an apartment building, right? Now you guys don't have to follow this exactly. This is just me kind of having fun and extruding things. Let's see if it'll let me subdivide that. There we go. Again, this is kind of like maybe a small apartment building. So you guys can make any amount of buildings you want. Just make sure they're in the correct instancer. And then when we turn off our instance collection, now we have this city. Now this is a little intense, so I'm actually going to scale up our plane. I'm going to go to Object, Apply, Scale. And now you can see that our city is actually starting to look pretty decent. These tall buildings are a little bit much, so you could also scale those down if you want to. Let's go ahead and unhide our tall building here. I think it's this one. Where is it? Yeah, this one right here is just a little much. You can also make sure that the scale is applied as well, but I'm going to scale this down just a little bit. I'm going to go back to our plane. That looks a little bit better. All right, let's go to our geometry nodes and let's talk a little bit more about how we can randomize the location and all the scale and things like that. Again, here's your base scale right here. I think I'm going to go for 0.1 and 0.1. Okay, and I'm also going to lower this maximum value because I don't want this to be too crazy here. It's starting to look really good though. All right, you can kind of see how we can start to form our cities based on, he said better late than never, based on what we have so far. Again, if you're going to get these things hanging below, we're going to adjust that translation as well, try to get that correct. And then we'll also make sure that all of our buildings are centered. I just want to double check that. And if they're not, we will fix those errors in a little bit because I want to go over rotation next. All right, so we have our translation for our instances properly set up. The next thing we want to do is we want to rotate those instances. Not vector rotate, I'm sorry. I'm just going to type in instances. There we go. Rotate instances. We're going to go ahead and pop that in here. Now you'll notice right away if I start rotating these, right, they all rotate at once, but that's not what we want, right? What I want is I want them to be able to rotate on a 90-degree angle both ways, okay? And yes, I will talk about road networks as well. Actually, we're going to get into that as well. All right, so for our rotation of our instances, I want to choose another random value, okay? And I want to plug this into a math node set to multiply. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little basic math. Now I did this math earlier, so I kind of save you guys the problem of having to figure this out. There's actually a specific value we're going to multiply by that has to do with pi, okay? And it is 1.571, all right? Now for our minimum, for our integer, we're just going to choose 0, and maximum can be 1. And then we need a combine XYZ node, okay? And all we're going to do is we're going to plug these in as follows. We're going to plug in our random value to the multiply, our top value into the z, and I only want this to rotate on the z-axis. So again, all of these things are perfectly rotated up and down, right, 90 degrees. I want them to randomly rotate. And then we just simply plug this into our rotation. All right, and then we have to fix these values here, 0 and 0. There we go. And you might not be able to tell right away, but we actually are having random rotation, and I want to just go ahead and verify that. Yep, if you look, you can see that from a top-down perspective, some of the buildings are flipped, right? We have, this is a great example right here. This is the same building twice, but you can see that it's flipped on the 90-degree angle. So this is how you can easily use a math node, a random value, and combine XYZ to actually rotate these instances to get some variation in your city. All right, there's a couple of glitches we're going to fix. One of those glitches is going to be the underside. I actually had this issue earlier and I didn't find the perfect solution, so we'll find that together. This is, again, I'm not an expert in geometry nodes, but I know enough, and I'll show you later kind of what I set up to solve those problems. But so far, we're doing great. Now, I want to talk about the grid for the city kind of like streets, and then after we talk about that, I'm going to show you guys how to actually start applying materials. But how cool is this so far? And again, everything's kind of controlled by this density right here, right? We have this density value and this distance minimum. So if I lower that to 0, now we have a packed city, right? And look at that, it's so easy to just set up like that. And it looks really awesome. Now, again, you can decide if you want more or less of a certain object. For example, let's say we wanted less of these skyscrapers. If I go to my instancers and I add more objects, we would have less skyscrapers and more of those other objects, right? So the more you have, the more variation you're going to get. And then, of course, this density factor is ultimately going to determine how densely populated your city is. And already, this looks pretty good. You can imagine the detail level that you can get if you go in and you model your own buildings very detailed, right? And not just basic geometry like this. But this does look really cool. The only downside to scaling these things up on the z-axis is you can kind of see a few things get distorted. So as long as you're okay with that, it should be fine. If not, my suggestion to you would be to just add more buildings, right? The more building variation you have, the better, and then you just don't scale them, right? You just randomly populate them. Now, so far, this is our current node setup. What I like to do to keep things organized, okay, is I like to Shift A and add a frame. Now, a frame is just kind of look like this little black box. You can adjust the size of it, and I want to drop all of these objects into the frame. So I'm just going to highlight all of them, press G, drop them into this frame, and now we can move our frame around and we can label it. Now, if you press N, we're going to get this little side panel here. And as you scroll through, you'll see that we have something that says frame, and we have a label. I'm going to label this, and I'm going to call this city instancer. Or sorry, building if I can spell this right, instancer, okay? And now what I have to do is zoom in, see if I can read that text, and if I can't, I'll just increase the label size, and now we have a really nicely organized area to work with. The next thing we're gonna do is add our road in. But before we do that, I wanna show you guys how we can customize this. Now you remember from earlier, right? We have our density factor right here. And we can adjust it in Geometry Nodes, which is great. But if you're to sell this on Gumroad or Blender Market, you're probably going to want to be able to have people customize this on their own without jumping into the nodes. A lot of people aren't comfortable with nodes. So what do? I'm going to duplicate my group input. Now you don't have to duplicate, but I want everything to be in this frame. Now you can see we have our geometry right here, right? We don't need the geometry. What we need is this empty slot. And I'm going to take this empty slot, plug it into our density factor. And now look at this. On the right-hand side, I have a density factor slider that I can adjust. So if I just want to really quickly, you know what, that's too many buildings, I just want to knock that down, we're good to go, right? We want more buildings, I raise that density factor. Now let's say it's a little too fast, right? This is where the math nodes come in. Let's say this is going a little bit too fast. Oh, I don't want to remove buildings that quickly, right? This is too intense. I want it to be more fine-tuned. How can we do that? Well, we just simply add a math node. We plug it in right here. And instead of add, we're going to choose multiply. And then for our value, we set it to something like 0.05, okay? And now when you raise this value, it'll happen more slowly. But this is too low, so I'll do 0.5. Now when you lower this value, you can see it happens much more slowly. So what we're actually doing is we're changing the factor of the building population, right? So that's a really good, easy way to do that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the road network. Now this road network is going to be pretty basic. It's going to be based on a grid. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that right now. I'm going to simply add in a grid. All right, we'll zoom in up here. I'm also going to put this in its own frame so we can organize it. There we go. And I'll call this road network. Again, guys, this is not going to be anything that complex. This is going to be based on the thumbnail that I showed you guys earlier. The next thing we need to do is we need to extrude our grid. Right now, you actually can't even see our grid. So I'm going to actually go ahead and make sure that this is added onto our join geometry. So I'm just going to plug it in like that. And it is in there, but you can't see it because it's really like nothing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on extrude mesh. I'm going to pop that in here. And then what I'm going to do is instead of faces, I'm going to choose edges. Okay, now you'll see this is our grid right here, right? So you can see right now we have a size for our grid. So I'm just going to adjust this until it kind of fills the size of our city. All right. And yes, there is a way to actually get this correct size with a bounding box node, but we're going to do that in a second. Now, vertices. This is the amount of cuts, right? This is the amount of cuts in the grid. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this to 200 and 200. All right. And you'll see this is very intense, right? All we have to do to adjust this extrusion is just adjust this offset right here. I'm going to do that with a math node. All right, we're going to do a math node and a multiply factor set into this offset. And then I am going to use a value of 0.1. And then we can just simply lower this value here to very slowly bring this down to a level that looks half decent. Something like that is kind of what we're looking for, okay? Now this is going to be our road. Now how do we kind of make this more random? Like how do we make this sort of like a network as Iconic suggested? Well, let's go ahead and use some random values. I'm going to first of all go to transform geometry, okay? I'm going to plug that in here. Now this is also going to allow us to raise and lower the grid like this, right? Now this is where things get really fun. For our extrude mesh, right, for our selection, watch this. I'm going to go ahead and type in random value. All right. I'm going to plug this random value into our selection. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to select integer. And I am going to do a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 2. Plug that into our selection. And now look, we have this kind of almost maze-like structure. Now this is kind of how you get those random roads, right? This is sort of the way you would want to do that. And so this looks good so far, so I'm pretty happy with this. We're going to move forward a little bit. Let me just make sure I have everything set up properly. I think I do. There's also a way to delete the bottom plane. So for example, let's just bring this up a little bit so I can see it. You can also delete geometry here. Delete geometry. And we can delete the faces. I'm sorry, faces, only faces. There we go. So you can delete the faces and only be left with the edges, but then you have to re-extrude them. So you have to be careful, and this can get a little sloppy. So just be careful if you do this. Just be very careful how you do it, For example, like that could work and it'll probably look fine in the viewport, but if you're fine with it, I would just leave the original plane. So I might just delete these and replug this back in and we're good to go. Also, everything right here, we want this to be in our road network. So I'm going to shift click everything, make sure it's within this same road network frame. And now what we can do is we can move this and be like, you know what? This is our road network and it's completely separate from everything else. Bro forgot caps on. I know, yeah, I have caps lock on. So as you guys can see, we have our city. It looks very good. I'm going to increase the density. Now, one of the next things to solve that I did not solve, which we will do after we set the materials up, is the city kind of going under itself like this, because we don't want that, right? Also, I'm going to go ahead and bring this back to 0. There we go. So the only thing we didn't solve is the city actually like flipping upside down. We don't want that at all. We are going to solve that. I actually don't know why that's happening. It probably just has to do with the scaling, the random scaling. I'm going to unplug this to see. Yep, it has to do with the random scaling. So our issue is underlined right here. And it's probably also because yep, that was it. Our random value is set to a negative value. So as long as you don't use a negative value like I did, it can't get scaled in the negative direction. All right, that was an easy fix. Next thing we're going to do is just take a look at the translation. We're going to raise this up a little bit. Right now, it's a little bit low. So I'm going to raise it up so it's kind of touching the floor a little bit more. And these skyscrapers are quite overwhelming, so I may kind of knock those down a little bit in the future. But I want to talk about how everything gets integrated with our, let me make sure I'm not missing any comments. I want to talk about how everything gets integrated within our shader editor. So let me take a sip of coffee because this is going to be like where we really deep dive, okay? So right now, everything is in geometry nodes. But as we know, there's also nodes available in our shader editor. So I'm going to hop over to our shader editor and I'm going to show you how we can actually make customizable materials for our city network that we've created. Now, for some reason, my shader editor is very slow these days. So let me just give it a second. All right, we're good to go. I'm going to go to my rendered view. Now, just for the purposes of this tutorial, I think it's time we add an HDRI, just so we have some basic lighting on our scene. We can kind of see what we've created here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple materials, but I'm going to make a new collection first. I'm going to call it materials. Why do I always have caps lock on, guys? All right, we're going to call it materials. I'm going to hide everything else to make this simple. I'm going to add a few spheres here. Okay. And I'm going to add 3 materials. The first material is going to be called city floor. You guys can name these whatever you want. You don't have to follow this. I'm just going to make this black so I can tell the difference between each material. And then I'm going to call this city buildings. And yes, you can assign to different buildings as well, but we'll get into that. City buildings, I'll make those blue so we can kind of see what they look like. And then last but not least, is that all we have as a part of our city? Let me double check. I'm sorry, that's all we have so far. We only need 2 materials. All right, so we're going to use these 2 materials. Now, you can see within your node editor, right, we have 2 nodes. We have our principal BSDF and our material output. Now, how can we control this material with our geometry nodes? This is where it gets fun. I'm going to start with our building color. I'm going to add in something called an attribute. And you want to make sure it's attribute and not color attribute. We're going to plug our color into the base color, and everything's going to turn black. And that's okay. That means we're doing this right. For the name, I'm just going to name this building 001. Okay. And the reason I'm doing it like that is so I know that it's not the same as the shader name, because the shader name we're not going to use. We're only going to use this attribute. Okay. All right. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go back to our geometry node setup. I'm going to hide my materials collection and just bring this back. We're going to go into rendered view. Now you'll notice nothing's changed. We need to add some nodes, right? So these instances right here, this is getting joined into our geometry at the end, but before it gets joined in, we want to set the material. So there's a couple things we need to do. The very first thing we need to do is add a set material node, which looks like this. I'm going to plug it in right here, and I'm going to make sure it's within our frame. Now we have these 2 that need to kind of get moved over here. So very first thing is set material. So I'm going to set the material to city buildings, and you'll notice they turn black. And the reason they turn black is because we haven't set up our attribute. So what we need to do is we need to add a stored name attribute, plug it in between these 2 nodes, and now we can use our group input to adjust, right? So similar to before, on the right-hand side, we have our density factor. We're now going to have a color factor. So I'm going to add in our group input node. Remember, right now we only have our density factor. I'm going to open up a new slot here, and I'm going to plug it into this name. But before we do that, we need to change this from a float to a color type, and then we're going to plug this in to our value, okay? Let me just make sure I'm setting this up right. Yep, good to go. And then for the name, we have to remember the name that we chose for our attribute. It is building, right? And then what was it, underscore 001? Something like that, I think. Is that correct? No, I feel like that's not what I called it. I just need to make sure I remember what I called it. Building 001 with no underscore. Okay, that's okay. All right, building and then 001. And the reason it turns white is because our color slot is white over here. So if I turn off my overlays, you can see that now I can change the color within our geometry nodes setup. And this is super, super, super powerful, like incredibly powerful, because now what we can do is we can be like, well, oh, you know what? I really wish I could change the roughness of my material, right? I wish I could change the roughness of my material, but I didn't have to go into the shader editor every time. Or I wish I could adjust the alpha of my material, which is the amount you can see through, with another attribute. Oh my God, you can. I'm going to Shift D this attribute. I am going to plug my factor into the alpha, okay? And then I'm just going to name this opacity just to keep things simple. And now you'll notice everything turns black. That's because we haven't assigned a value. So if we go back over to geometry nodes, all we need to do is we need to add another stored name attribute. Shift D, duplicate this, and we're going to stack these, right? So now we're going to type in opacity. And instead of color, we want this to be a, what did I choose? I think I chose a float. Was it a float? Yeah, it is a float. And now look, we can adjust this value right here for the transparency. And wait, there's more. All we have to do is plug our group input into the value. And now on the right-hand side, this is our opacity. Look at that. So if I set it to 1, it's completely opaque. If I set it to 0.3, now we can see through it. Now you're probably wondering, well, Kenny, how do I actually change the name of these things? Well, in our tab here on the right within our node editor, if you press N, you can show and hide this tab. We go to group, okay, and then you can see we have our group sockets right here, which are our values that we can adjust. And I'll just simply double click on this value right here, and I will call this opacity. And boom, now on the right-hand side, you have a completely customizable node setup. You know what? I really want these buildings to be gray. So I'm just going to quickly change that. I want them to be kind of like a dark gray like this. And I want the opacity to be 1. We shouldn't be able to see through our building, right? And boom, now we have a completely customizable setup. Now it gets even better because now we can go ahead and use the color to change our street color and our grid color. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can kind of see how this works. Again, we have our buildings, right? They're all over the place. Now, how do we set the material up for this? Well, let's go ahead and add a set material node. Let's plug it in right here. Let's add a stored name attribute. Oops, stored name attribute. Let's plug it in right here. Let's make sure this is set to color. And then what we have to do is set up our attribute within our shader editor. So let's go back to our shader editor. Okay, let's click on our sphere, which is this one right here. This is our city floor. You can see it's named right here. Let's simply add an attribute. And this is where we link the ability to edit these. I'm going to plug my color into the base color. I'm going to name this floor, keep it really simple. Type geometry, you guys can choose geometry, that's the easiest way to do this. Go ahead, go back to your geometry nodes editor, type in floor, okay? And now I'm just test if this is working. It is not, because we need to also set the material to city floor. And now you can see, oh, this is the grid, my fault. I shouldn't have called it floor, I should have called it street. Regardless, you can see that we can change our color, and maybe we'll just make it blue right now so we can see it. Now, what do we need to modify this? We need a group input node. All right, I'm going to push this up here. And then I'm just going to plug in this empty socket into our value. And then look, on the right-hand side, we have our value. We can change this to whatever we like. And we can just adjust the name of it within our group sockets right here. I will change this to street color, I don't know. And boom, now we have the ability to adjust that as well. The only thing left that we haven't added the ability to adjust is our actual original geometry, which is, of course, this one right here. Let me just make sure. Yep, this line right here is coming from our original geometry. So we need to simply set this material up. And look, if you have a node that's stuck in your frame, just right click on it and say remove from frame, and you're good to go. That's happened to me before, and I had no idea how to change it, and it was really frustrating. Look, can't get this out of the frame. Right click, remove from frame. You're good to go. Now we need a stored name attribute and a set material for our floor. So I'm going to go ahead and just name it. I already know what the name's going to be. I'm just going to call this base just to keep things simple. Now we need a new material slot. Let's go back to the shading tab. Let's show our materials again. I'm going to Shift D for this material. I'm going to make a completely new material. Doesn't matter what it's named. I'm proving that to you by just randomly typing. But what does matter is our attribute. This attribute needs to be named base. I will plug the color into the color. And now all we have to do is go back to Geometry Nodes. We need to show our plane where the city is. And then all we need to do is select the material, which is this random material name, and make sure it's set to base and type color. Now we should be able to adjust the color of our floor, which we are easily able to do. Now, how do we modify that? In our modifiers, we need to add a group input. Okay, and this group input, again, I know they're all over the place, but it's a lot better if it's close to the value you're trying to adjust in terms of the proximity. And we plug that into the value, and I'll rename this base color. And now you can see on the right-hand side, look how customizable our city is. We can adjust the density of our city. Maybe we want the floor street color to be white. All right, and maybe we want the base color to be some kind of dark blue, maybe. And look, now we can easily customize our entire city. Now, here's where it gets even more fun, right? Our street down here, right? Our street is controlled by a grid, which is right here. And all these values we had to punch in manually. Well, what if we were able to adjust the size of our street, right, with a node socket? Well, we can do that. And we can adjust the size right here. I'm going to add in a math node. I'm going to push it right here. Make sure it's in our frame. Now I want to kind of bring this up so you guys can see what I'm doing here. This is where the grid starts, right? So I want this value to be the same for our X and our Y, right? It needs to be exactly the same. I'm going to set this to multiply, and I'll set the value to 10, okay? Now you can see I can adjust with our top value the density of the grid, right? You can see that right here. Notice how that works. All right, now all we have to do, and I'll set these to 5 and 5 to keep things simple. All we have to do is plug in a group input node here. Okay, I'll put it in the frame, and then we just plug in our empty socket into the top or the bottom value, whichever one we want to work with. And look, now I can adjust the grid with this value on the right-hand side here. How powerful is that? Very cool. And I learned this when I was creating my shader that I sell, my draft line shader. But look at this, incredible. I love this stuff. And again, this size right here, what is this? The size of the actual grids themselves. So if we do, 10 by 10, this should be the size. Let me make sure I'm getting that right. Let me save this, make sure nothing crashes on me. Yeah, I think we're good. Look at that though. And look, you can also adjust this randomizer right, where is it? Right here. Oh wait, that's the wrong one, I think. Where's the actual randomizer? Where is it? That's the density, that's the grid. Am I getting mixed up here? I might be. No, I think we're good. I do need to raise this up though. It's a little bit low. Whoa. You gotta be careful how much you raise it up though. Excuse me. Excuse me, guys. I think we're good. Okay. All right. I'm pretty happy with this so far. The next thing I would probably say is that now you can start to add your own custom buildings. I want to go back to my actual original example because I want to show you guys kind of like what this starts to look like. So what I did here is I did the exact same thing I did on the other one. And again, the node setup is very similar, and you can see how customizable this becomes. No way it will kill your PC. Nothing is fast with Blender. Now, I don't think this will kill your PC. This is actually quite efficient. But I want to go ahead and snap to my camera view because I want to show you kind of like what I set up here. I basically set up, I believe it was an orthographic camera view, and then I just added some depth of field, and it just looked really cool. So this is like, if you want to create like just this really cool, like maybe a web page banner or something cool like that, this would be a really easy way to do that, right? So another cool concept that you could play with is you could make a circuit board procedural generator, right? And it can get even crazier because what you can do is you can have this generated from a grid from scratch. In other words, you don't even need an object, right? Maybe a single vertice, and then you spawn a grid on top of that vertice, just delete the vertice. It can be literally any object. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is like you can generate everything from scratch. And look how cool and expansive this city is. There's so many little moments in here, right, that are so nice. You can get a perspective on the inside like this. Maybe you want to go for the corner right here. It's just, I have a blast with this stuff. You can start to see how customizable this really is when you get down to it, right? Bare bones. If you want your buildings to only appear where the roads are not, sorry, let me read this. If you want your buildings to only appear where the roads are not, would you use a grid for the base floor and use the edges for the street? Would that work? Potentially, yeah. So there's also this thing called bounding box, which I've messed with before. I'm going to quickly pull up for you guys an example of my actual shader. This is not me trying to sell my shader to you by any means, but I wanted to show you this example because of how complex these geometry nodes can really get. So this is my shader that I made for something that I actually like sell. So I just want to zoom out, show you these nodes. And I want to show you what this does real quick, and then I'll get back to your question, Elizabeth. So this is the shader right here. Let me go ahead to solid view, or rendered view, I'm sorry. So again, this is the node setup. And as we zoom in, you can see that we get these nice lines. And if you look on the right, all of these things are customizable. So you can see I used the group input quite a few times here. And just to show you how many times I used it, this is my group input node, right? So as you add more sockets, it just grows and grows and grows, and there's just a lot to it. I am selling this shader, but again, this is not to promote the shader. It's just to promote you guys learning about geometry nodes. You can see I'm using some switch values, multiply. The switch value is awesome. I will talk about how that works. That allows you to turn objects on and off. So maybe what we'll do is I'll show you guys kind of how that works and give you a practical example, because the switch, oh my gosh, the switch value is so cool. You can see this is the effect you get though. You can adjust the opacity of the lines, the variation and the thickness of the lines, things like that, and it works really well. But I want to go back to our example real quick. Was it this one? Yeah, or no, I'm sorry, it was the other one. Geo nodes example 2. Here we go. Yeah, you can, there's a node called a switch node, and the way it works is it's simply a switch, like a light switch. Something's either on or it's off. So the way that that works is like this. Let's say we want to be able to toggle the street on and off, right? Well, where does the street actually become part of the geometry? Well, the street becomes part of the geometry right here, right? This top line that leads into our join geometry, that's where we're adding our grid. So let's add in a switch node. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click right here. Now watch what happens when I check this. It's gone, and now it's there. It's gone, and now it's there. So you can probably guess where I'm going next with this. Well, I have my handy group input node right here, so I'm going to plug in this empty socket into my switch, and now on the right hand side I have a switch to turn my street on and off. Now you notice that when it's checked, the street's gone. We actually want it to be the opposite, so all we have to do is switch this from false to true, and now when it's checked, that means the statement is true, which means the street will turn back on. If I uncheck it, the street is gone. And sorry if I'm over explaining this, but this is really powerful as well. So you can hide the non-used group inputs. You're asking me, or you're telling me that you can? Oh, you're talking about on this node? Oh, is that right? What do you right click and show hide unconnected sockets? Is that how you do it right there? I actually didn't know you could do that. That is really awesome, and we don't lose any of our functionality. That was a great tip. Thank you so much, Sheila. That was a fantastic tip. Again, the switch is so awesome. So in my case with my shader, I was able to switch on and off the axes that I want to, like the z-axis. If I don't want that, I'll switch it off. Another great example is, let's say you don't want a lot of skyscrapers in here. Well, you can have a switch that turns off a collection or turns it back on. So maybe you have a skyscraper collection, you want to turn that on and off, you can easily do so. So let's go ahead and let's start a completely new project, okay? And I'm going to have you guys give a user suggestion as to what you want. I have pretty much all day. I can stream as long as I want. So I'm going to have you guys make a quick user suggestion. What would you like to see in geometry nodes? because I feel like already we've gone pretty far, and I'm really honestly, guys, I'm a complete beginner at geometry nodes. I know way more about the shader editor than I do about geometry nodes, but half the time when we're adding things, right, we're creating out of necessity, which I love to do, and I think that with geometry nodes, you kind of learn as you go. You kind of have to. So I'd just love to hear, what you guys think and what you would like to see. A lot of the times, again, you just start with these two things. This is your input and that's your output, and then anything in between is up to you. Jeff wants to see water. Jeff, that is a great idea, and I can definitely cover that next time, but I was thinking something more along the lines of geometry nodes. Thank you for your suggestion. Or are you saying create water with geometry nodes? Because that's a whole different thing. But I do want to go ahead and just do this. Water would be nice. Everyone wants water. Oh, man, I might have to do water then. Okay. All right. Really want water? Water would be nice. Okay. Let's get this grid in here. All right, I'll do water. Everyone wants water. All right, so we want to learn how to make water, like just a fluid simulation. Okay. We had a 2D particle course from Tom, but never did 3D. All right, so, all right, you guys asked for it. We can do water. So, how do we create a fluid simulation? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. All we have to do is add an object. I'll just add a cube, simplest object I can think of. And then I will simply, let me X out of this. I will simply go up to Object, Quick Effects, and Quick Liquid. And within seconds, we have ourselves a fluid simulation. And that's the tutorial, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Totally kidding. So he said, yes, that was the idea. Yeah, so, okay, water. All right, what specifically are you looking to do with water? Because, again, we can add obstacles. We can add some anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is pretty cool because then you can start to deal with force fields with water, and that's pretty fun. This right here is, like, kind of unheard of, being able to, like, kind of play this in real time. Normally, you have to bake. I mean, this is a really low-res water sim, so... All right, let's do this. Let me show you guys what a force field would look like with water. Let's do that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn my gravity off. Turn it to 0. All right. And then I will click on my domain or a stream. Oh, a stream could be cool, yeah. I would like to see a collection array with the option to choose the density of every object in the collection with the right rotation, even 90-degree angled corners. Collection array. Interesting. Okay. Julia, that is 100% possible. In fact, I did that. Well, I sort of did that with my last shader, so we can do that next, okay? Water dripping from a specific point, like from a leaky dam. You have Elizabeth's question too. Wait, what was Elizabeth's question? I'm sorry, did I miss that? Oh, I'm so sorry. Elizabeth, I'm the worst. I totally missed your question. Or I didn't miss your question, but I totally forgot to actually, like, do that, didn't I? All right, let me just quickly write down a list so I don't miss everybody's questions. Hold on. This is to respect your questions here. One was how to make the buildings, avoid the grid street. And then 2 was how to adjust density of specific buildings. And then 3, what was 3? Water dripping. All right, does that look right? Am I missing any questions there? Buildings next to a road. Yes, thank you guys. Appreciate that. I'm gonna try. I'll come back to this in a second. Let me just quickly do the fluid sim, and then we'll go back to the geometry nodes. Okay. Make sure everything's set up. It is. I'm gonna choose 100 for my end frame. For the type, I'm thinking all will work best. And then I'll also set my end frame down here to 100. That way we're only dealing with 100 frames on a timeline. And if we press play, nothing happens because we need to bake, right? This is CG Cookie. We need to bake. The building's not being on the roads. Got it. All right, let's go ahead and turn our gravity off. We did. Let's add a force field. We'll bring it down so you guys can see how this works. And then I'm just going to adjust the value to -50. All right, and that should attract our water towards the middle. Let's just quickly give this a little bake, and let's see what we get. And then I'll try to do a drip effect after that. Whoa! So it's working. It's quite quick. Like almost like too quick. I think the force field might be a little bit intense, but you can kind of see how this works. The water is simulated, right? There's no gravity, so we're not pulling it down. We're just pulling it towards the force field. Let me go ahead and let me free everything. Let me turn our force field strength down to like -10, and I just want to see kind of what we get here now. And also, you know what? Let's turn the resolution up to 100. Get something a little bit more realistic here. Now we're baking, right? We're cooking. This thing's gonna take a quick second to bake through. Guys, there's really no shortage of things I could teach about Blender, especially because like I'm always learning more too. Just trying stuff myself. I don't know if you guys are like me at all, but I try to just make projects and do fun stuff, and it ends up turning into a tutorial later, or it ends up turning into like something that actually like financially benefits me and I can sell the template. So pretty fun. All right, here we go. Let's escape this. Let's press play. Whoa. Now this is kind of our side view here. It stops because I stopped the bake, but you can kind of see that is kind of trippy right there. And that's the reason we're kind of getting this trippy effect is because if I'm correct, I think we're looking at the velocity of these particles in our like wireframe view. I mean, this is wireframe view, and if we go to solid view, this is what the solid view would look like. So he said now he needs more coffee. I know. More coffee just really keeps us going with the stream. I mean, coffee is the... You know that Blender is sponsored by coffee? Did you guys know that? So this is what our liquid looks like. It almost looks like claymation or something. The reason it's going up and down is because it hasn't quite settled. Eventually it would probably settle, and we can adjust the flow as well. So yeah, that's how you would do like a liquid pull towards a force field. Now, you mentioned liquid drop, right? That was the other thing you had mentioned. Let me just think for a second how we would do that. I'm thinking. So, okay, let me turn the gravity back on first of all. We need gravity for fluid to fall like that. -9.8 meters squared, or I'm sorry, meters a second squared. That is the falling rate of gravity. Let's get rid of this force field. So if we bake this right now at a resolution of 50, it should just flow right down, right? Yep, so it just falls right down. Now that's good, right? It's falling just once. So if we want a consistent drip, what I would say is, reminds me of a baby blob. If it's possible, the array should recognize the size of the different objects. Interesting. Drops coming from a crack of a cam. Oh, of a dam. Oh yeah, okay. So here's my thought process on this. This right here in itself is a drop, right? But how do we drop this once and then drop it again and then drop it again, right? How do we repeat that action? So I'm going to free everything in the bake. I'm going to kind of, I'm actually going to delete this, and I'm going to add in a mesh sphere. And this is going to be our fluid type flow. And then I'll just do liquid, geometry, flow source, mesh, yep, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. Yeah, okay, so let's bake this. This is going to be our small water drop. And let's go ahead and bake it out. And just make sure it looks like a water drop, right? Boom, there's your water drop. Now it's not super high res, but there's a water drop, right? So how do we kind of make this repeat over and over again? Well, let me think for a second, because I actually don't know. I don't know. Let me just think. My first initial thought is to keyframe the value within our settings here. Where is it? Flow source mesh, nah. Type geometry. I'm really thinking. I'm probably thinking a little bit too much about this. If you guys have ideas, shoot them to me here. But another thing you can do is meta balls, right? You can drop one of those, maybe like have it splat or something like that. But this right here, you want this kind of like dropping effect where like you're consistently filling something up. All right, here's my thought. Let's delete the bake. All right. Now, instead of geometry, which would just drop it just once, let's change it to inflow. And then I just want to see the initial velocity up. Maybe we could uncheck flow over and over again, like, right, just a couple of times, and then just keyframe that. Flow like a mesh running down the side of a dam. Well, yeah, you could do it. You could do. You can do that with node. Can you do that with nodes? Yes. Inflow with a very slow rate. Yes. But would you keyframe a cycles modifier? Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking is like this right here. Use flow is basically like turning on and off the faucet. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that checked. Insert a keyframe. I'm gonna go to frame 5. Insert a keyframe. Go to frame 6. Uncheck it, and let's just see if I'm right about that. And if I'm right about that, we're golden. That's all we have to do. So what should happen is the fluid should flow and then stop at frame 6. Let's see if it does. Boom. Okay, that's all we need. Now check this out. We free all. We click on our sphere. Here's our timeline down here with our keyframes. I'll just duplicate the keyframes again. And I will spread this out however long I want. So this is where you're going to be like, okay, how long apart do you want these drips to be? Maybe something like that. Now let's go ahead and bake again. And we should have our faucet turn on and off with a consistency that might look like drips. Let's see if I did this right. Okay, I did it right, but it's too close together. So we need to separate those frames out a little bit more. So let me go back. All right, so right here it turns off. So we need to have it turn off maybe until like frame 15. And then it'll turn back on frame 16, etc., etc. All right, let's try that. Also, I think you can use Shift-R for that. Let me check. Yep, Shift-R to repeat last action. And let's go ahead and let's bake all and see if this works. And I will get to your comments in just a second. I just want to see if this is working. Again, still too close. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to speed up the rate of timescale. I'm going to speed it up to 3. And then I am going to select all of this. And I am going to see, I just want to see what this looks like right now. Shift D. All right. I want to see what we looking like, what we are looking like right now. Let's bake again. All right, this should work, I think. There we go. Okay, so the other part of it is how long do you want that drip to occur? Do you want it to be just a frame? Because I think right now it's happening over a longer period of time. But you have a drip, right? You're good, and then we'll restart the simulation. Boom, boom, and we're good to go. So yeah, actually, like I never thought to do it this way, but this is a good method to use. Now what we have to figure out is how are our keyframes actually looking? Let's see. So right now we have use flow checked. And I'm thinking, guys, we literally just do this for 1 frame and bake this. And I just want to see what this is going to look like. That means it's going to just drop just a little bit of liquid. Boom. There's your 1 drop. Good. And then we'll free all. We'll go back to our keyframes. And what is it stopping right there? I'll have it drip every, I don't know, 5 seconds. I'm just pressing Shift-R to repeat the last action. Let's see if this works. And if this works, we are good to go. Actually, this could be a little tutorial in itself because I actually think this is quite useful. There you go. So you want it to be slower, you spread out the keyframes. But there's your water drops. What do you guys think? So they don't have to be in the same size and have no gaps. For example, one arch is 3.6 meters. The next is 2.1 meters in width. Hi, I'm interested in how to make boat wakes, if you don't mind. That is dynamic paint. I will add that to number 4. Okay. We'll cover all of this, guys. Don't worry. I'm thinking inflow with small substeps. If you don't know if you can do decimals, yeah, I think you can. I mean, this right here would be exactly, I think, what we're looking for. And I think, yeah, what like all you have to do is spread out these keyframes, and maybe you only want 1 drop every 10 seconds. You got it, right? And guys, this is low res. Like imagine, increasing this resolution and then having like a really, really small drop, and you can get this probably pretty realistic for the most part. Liquid simulation. The higher resolution, the more goes the liquid through the effector walls yesterday's live stream. Is it better to increase the solidity or surface thickness? Yes, so surface thickness is something you're going to have to experiment, and it all has to do with the size of your objects as well. So there's a lot that goes into this. Yeah, very helpful. Awesome. Okay, guys, we are good with our fluid. I'm going to just really super quickly show you how to make a wake in water. Again, all this stuff is covered in in CG Cookie's core fundamentals of Blender, so definitely check that out. It is very much worth the value. All right, let's go ahead and make a new document. I'm not gonna save this because it's all recorded. So all I'm gonna do for a wake, guys, we only need two things. We need a plane. We need to subdivide the crap out of the plane. Something like that should be fine. And then we need an object to go through our plane. How about a sphere? I'm going to scale this down, bring it over here. I'm going to animate this to go through. So I'm going to press I on my keyframe, or for 1. I'm going to go to 60, bring it along the X, keyframe it, and then I'll just type in 60 for our end frame. So now we have something that looks like this, right? We're keyframing this, and now we want to have a wake that goes through, right? And then just whatchamacallit, add some waves. So let's go ahead and click on our plane. I'm going to add a dynamic paint canvas, and then I'm just going to choose for the surface type waves. Then I'll click on my sphere, and I will simply add a dynamic paint brush. Click on add brush, go back to frame 1, and there you go. That's all you have to do. So this is pretty easy to do. If this drop thing upgradable to rain, or that crash the PC? So for rain, I would just do dynamic paint and particle system. But yeah, this is how you would do kind of like a wake in water. And then if you want it to be smoother, you can of course shade this smooth, right? But you can also add in a subdiv. So just go ahead and go to your modifiers, generate subdivision surface, and then you should get something that looks like this. Very nice and smooth. And we use the drops to make a character cry. Oh, wow. Elizabeth, very sad. I'm just kidding. Let me figure that out too, because I'm just trying to think of how you would want to do that. What does the wake look like if you render it? It looks really good. I actually have a really good example of this somewhere. Just look real quick. Where is that example? I have an example of dynamic paint. Trying to find it. I have so many. Guys, I don't think you realize like how much dumb stuff I render. Oh, here is this it? Oh yeah. So this is actually from the course that I teach. Oh, here's a great one. Look at this. This wake right here. Have you ever wondered how to bring your digital creations to life with realistic? That's what the wake would look like, something like that. Now I put a texture on this with the Instagram logo, but you can see kind of how that dynamic paint works, and it looks really good. So that's kind of how that would look. It also depends on the material you apply, but that's a good example right there. Let me see if I have anything else. I literally, like, I have a billion and 10 projects I could show you guys. What does the wake look like if you render it? Could you please maybe do the real-time destruction with GeoNodes? I don't know physics in GeoNodes yet, but that'll be something we can cover in the future for sure. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at our list because I need to make sure. All right, we did this. We did this. All right, where were we? How do you add the foam and bubbles trailing behind? What I would do is I would do a particle system, and then I would apply it to my plane, and I would use another dynamic paint canvas with type weight, and then I would do the inverse selection of that weight and have those particles generated and then randomly dispersed with a turbulence force field. Did that make sense? I probably just spoke way too fast. That's how I would do it. Again, a lot of this stuff can be done with flip fluids and real-time like procedural shaders. Right now, though, with what we're doing, I don't think I'm going to get into that. That's a little bit of a complex topic. Doesn't mean we can't cover it in the future, but it's way more complex. I haven't used flip fluids in some time either, so I have to do a quick refresher on how that all works because I just kind of do everything with the built-in Blender stuff, okay? All right. I am not going to save that either. I know you guys probably are just cringing when I don't save, right? Am I right or am I wrong? Probably like, don't delete it. Don't worry, you can always make it again. The name of the course is The Core Fundamentals of Blender, and it is actually in the link in the description below. I'm sorry, is it? Should be there somewhere. Yeah. Wait. That's weird, I don't see it. Okay, I will drop it in the chat. Hold on one second. Core. CG Cookie Core. There it is, Core Fundamentals. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you guys. There you go. All right, let me go ahead and take a look. Yeah, the Weta guys from, so now they did, what was it, Avatar, right? And they did all the liquid simulations in Avatar. Just incredible, incredible. It is, yep. Petabytes of water data. Petabytes. I don't think I have like 2 terabytes on this hard drive. All right, so let's go back to the Geometry Nodes project. I'm getting mixed up here with what we're gonna do. I actually like my other project better than this one. Like I like this one, but like the buildings, just like, maybe it's just the scale of the buildings. Let me see. All right, so what was our question that we have to look at here? This is density. Oh, there it is, density. Oh my gosh, looks good. Get a nice little angle, some nice lighting here. These instances though, these really big buildings just like are not doing it for me. But all right, let's say for example I have a city and I want to add trash bags randomly on it. Is there a way to use GeoNodes to instance those trash bags only on places I draw or annotate? Ooh, that is a great question. 100% I know there is, because I've seen add-ons that can do this. I haven't done it before, but if you guys want, we can look into it together and we can try it for ourselves. Where I would start with something like this, right, is probably to just see something real quick. Let me just pull up the documentation really quickly. Honestly, ChatGPT could probably just tell me in 2 seconds, but I'm just going to do Geometry Nodes Annotation. There we go. Hold on. That's not the right thing. I'm just seeing if they have a node for it. I know for a fact you can do it with a curve. Let me see something. Let me try this. They called it Loki. First, do the roads. Sheila's jumping in line here. Actually, Sheila, I think your question was first, to be fair. Wouldn't you weight paint where you want to leave the trash bags? Yeah, like that's the thing is like, so this is where my brain just goes like, just, right? There's so many ways to do the same thing in Blender. There really is. Particle system, right, with a vertex weight paint. I mean, there's literally a million ways. But Geometry Nodes is cool because then you can procedurally do it, right? And then you can go in there and draw while you're still in like rendered view, which is really cool. Okay, I'm sorry. Andrew Price citing. There's no way. There's no way. But that's cool if he is in here. Let me go ahead and go back to our original example here. It was Elizabeth's question, but thank you. Yes, no problem. Okay, let's actually do this. All right, the original question was how to make the buildings avoid the grid street. So let's figure out how we can do that. One of the things I would say is I know that you can delete geometry, right? That is a node, and I had it up here somewhere. So here's where our instances come out, right? So let me just see something real quick. Delete geometry. So here's my thought process on how we might be able to achieve this. Within our delete geometry node, let's take a look at the options we have, right? We have a geometry option, right? So if I just slide that in there, guess what? It's gone. Everything's gone. And that is because we're deleting everything. But we have a selection. So maybe we can target the grid as our selection. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Let's see if I can do that. Because if I can target our grid, which is right here, I don't know if I can target the UV map, but if I can, that's great. Oh, we have an extrusion. Oh, and these look like selection points. If I can somehow target the selection of the grid and delete only where the grid is, then we might be able to just delete the instances that overlap with the grid. That is my thought process. So let's see if I'm correct. And if I'm not, then I'm never allowed to stream on CG Cookie again. I'm kidding, but I just want to see something. Let's see if this is possible. All right, so I just plugged in the top value of our extrude mesh to the selection. Let's see if it worked. I literally have no clue if this worked or not. It's very difficult for me to tell. Nah, did not work. Let me just try something else. Let me try the UV map for the grid. I mean, I think we're on the right idea here, like with like deleting the parts that the grid is a part of. But at the same time, if we look at, I wonder if this random value would help too. I'm thinking this through. There was an Andrew Price video in the search results. Oh, very cool. Guys, my brain is really thinking here. I also just realized that the grid is not the same size as our plane. And I want to show you guys how I think we can solve that. There's something called bounding box. And if we just quickly get an instance of, let me just add the group node. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in here. So this bounding box is like the size of the plane. And I think I should be able to plug in the min and the max to the size of our grid. If I'm correct, that would be great. Nope. Actually, I do think that worked, but I might have to like apply scale to everything. Nope. We're getting somewhere here though. That was the vertices. Bounding box. Oh, wait. Bounding box. Let me just see something. Nah. The min and the max. How do I get the bounding box size? Can we delete the buildings that overlap the edges of the grid since the edges are the street? Yes. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Again, not an expert in geometry nodes here. Get the bounding box. That's the bounding box. Okay, let's see. They're not even using the, why did I pull this up? They're not even using the bounding box there. This is where like, so, and I'm curious what you guys think too, because this is where I start to get into geometry nodes, and I did this with my original shader. I was just, oh, size equals max minus min. Does it? If that's the case, I will duplicate my math node, do a subtraction, max minus min. If this works, you're a genius. That looks cool though. Oh, did I do subtract? Max, I'm sorry, max minus min. Did I do that correctly? E. Who said E? What, Mohammed, what does E mean? It's funny. Hold on a second. I have an idea, but I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm really probably like using way too much brain power on this, because it really is just simple as being like 6 and 6, right? And then boom, it's the correct size. But the bounding box, we should be able to get from the geometry data, right? Hold on. Is it object data? Hold on. Object info. Oh, here it is. Object info. Let's get the scale and plug it in. Nah. You would think that would work, right? Oh, we have to separate X, Y, Z because the scale is a vector, right? Am I thinking about this right? I feel like I am. Nope. I really thought that might have worked. Vector, not float. Wait, what? Oh, are you talking about here? Sorry, Elu, can you tell me? Because I think you're on. I think we're definitely on to something, and I want to do that so that we can actually get that to be the same size. Vector, not float. I've been looking at nodes for way too long. the math, I feel like with the math node too, like there's just like a whole world of options that I don't even know about, you know? He said yes. Wait, what are you saying yes to? I wish there wasn't a delay, because I feel like this would be awesome if there was no delay. Why can't X? Oh, I'm plugging the wrong thing in. Hold on, there we go. Still no. In the subtract node, you're saying? Oh, you're saying pick. You're saying pick vector. I mean, I don't see where that is, or am I just not seeing it? I'm looking for something that says vector instead of subtract. Use vector math node instead. Oh. Got it. Thank you. Let me try. Vector math. Okay, let's try that. So you're saying use the vector math node and then do a subtract min and max, or max from min. See, like, I were definitely onto something there. Vector math node. Is it? Do I have to switch these? Hold on. It's almost like, let me see something. What is this value? Oh, that's that. I really genuinely think we're getting somewhere here, though. I'm gonna switch. Oh, that's the switch. I mean, that is correct, right? Vector math node set to subtract. You're subtracting the min from the max, and then you're plugging that into the size slots, right? It's like it's retaining the correct. I'm wondering if I take this plane and I scale it on the X, and I go object apply scale. See, that's what's weird is, look, now we're still getting, we shouldn't be getting that square there, right? We should be getting an elongated rectangle, correct? What are you trying to achieve? Honestly, dude, sometimes I don't even know when I'm doing this. All I'm trying to do is get this grid to match up with the same size as the input here. Let me try this though. Hold on. Scale and scale. Nope. I mean, like, get this out of here. Separate. Oh, here, let me try something here. Boom. No, that's not going to work either. Is it a vector? Is it a vector? I guess it is a vector. What I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to scale the grid to the size of the plane, which I definitely could have done when I was creating this shader. Split into two, one for X and another for Y. Interesting. Like, you're saying split the subtraction into two, or what? Are you saying right here, like with the scale? Your subtract is outputting a vector. Oh, yep. So you're saying separate it like this and get rid of that and give me Y and X? Geniuses over here. Someone give this man a medal. Slow motion. Thank you, sir. You did it. All right, that actually like gave me some really better like core fundamental understanding of geometry nodes. Thank you so much. Round of applause for slow motion. Okay, that actually like genuinely helped me understand a lot more, and I really enjoyed troubleshooting that, because now that we know how to do that, I can probably use that in other areas, which is great. Oh my gosh. I thought it would never happen. Okay, so I'm going to break it down so I understand it even better. We're taking the geometry of our plane. We're getting the bounding box, which is like a box that surrounds the whole area. We are subtracting the largest size and the smallest size, and then we're separating out the X and the Y to plug into our grid size. Fantastic job. Someone give this man a medal. 1 million years of free CG cookie. Good stuff. All right. Now that we got that, time for the next problem to solve. It is funny because it's like, Okay, we solved that problem. Now, how do we delete the buildings from the overlapping areas of the grid, right? How do we achieve that? Wow, I'm just like that was great. That was great. Fantastic work. Oh man. Good stuff. Okay. So we have our grid and we are extruding it to get. We really shouldn't be extruding it, but we are. In like kind of a strange way. And now we have to figure out, okay, those areas that we have on our grid, how do we then take that and delete the geometry of our instances? And I actually have an idea because right here with instance on points, I'm wondering if we can generate we can, oh, this is totally it right here. If we can distribute the points on our grid, and then we need a way to like select the grid and then delete anything that's like delete that selection for instances. So you only want the buildings on the blue. Correct. So again, right here, our grid, this is just turning our grid on and off. If we try to delete our geometry, that'll delete everything, right? Maybe what we want to do, we want to delete instances, right? But now we need to just select those instances from, I'm going to try this. I don't know that this is going to work. Did that work? Did not. It did not. How do we combine two vector values? You did. You pushed it over the finishing line. Yes, you did. This looks like they are still on those areas. So let me just try the side. I don't really know like what this selection is right here. I still wonder, can we use the UV map? Is it really not like, no. Okay, that's okay. We're definitely getting somewhere. Like, how do we take this selection, right? And how do we get a selection from the geometry? Guys, don't be mad, but I'm going to ask ChatGPT. All right, I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Don't get all mad on me here. What was I going to ask it? Oh, yeah. How to make, all caps, how to make a selection in Geometry Nodes from an object and delete anything overlapping that selection when all else fails. Oh, geometry proximity. Target, plug the geometry in that you want to modify the target input of the proximity node. Oh, okay, let's see if this works. Geometry proximity. Okay. So what geometry do we want to sample? Well, we want to sample our grid right here. Okay. And then the output is going to be the position. Let me see. Let's try edges. I think instance on points node might be useful here, just a guess. Maybe store the selection as an attribute. Ooh, Elizabeth. You guys should be teaching geometry nodes, not me. See something. Just want to see. So you're saying stored name attribute, or hold on, store attribute. How do you do an attribute? Oh, capture attribute, right? All right, let's capture the attribute of our geometry, and we'll capture the faces, maybe the edges, and then plug that into our selection. Wrong. Let's try instances. No, face, edge. It's a good suggestion, but then how do we output the attribute that we've collected? Like, how do you then take, or is it stored? No, it's not a stored name attribute. The proximity seemed promising. Let me just make sure I'm not missing a little point here. Compare. Right. Well, the streets being generated are kind of already semi-random, even though they don't really look that good right now. But we want to just, this selection, is there not a way to get the randomness of that? I'm wondering if I just plug this random value in, if it will work. Did that work? Did it? Did it? No, it didn't. Because they're still on top of the white here. Yeah. It almost worked. Oh, that would have been so cool if that worked. I want to figure out also, how do I get a selection from a mesh? Is there an attribute field? Attribute, statistic, capture attribute, removed name attribute, stored name attribute. Position, add a position node to get the coordinates of each point, compare node, and then target. Normal UV. Attribute compare, attribute math. It seems only a select a specific building, which is also interesting though. Yeah, like there's got to be 1,000,010 ways to do this. Like part of me loves that I don't know how to do this, but then another part of me is like, this is so frustrating because I need to figure out how to do this, because once I figure this out, I'll expand my knowledge on geometry nodes so much more. Offset away from the edges. That's also a good idea. I kind of want, I like the idea of the attribute, but I also like the idea of, let me try the position. Nope. Set position. Oh, here's your offset though. Let me just think. I'm brainstorming right now. Oh. Okay, hold on. I'm having a brain blast, guys. You guys remember Jimmy Neutron? Brain blast? Mesh to points. Wait, to selection. Edge paths to selection? Let me try this first. No, that won't work. Let me just try this though. I say it won't work, but let's try it. Nah. That could have been so cool. If that worked, oh man. Okay, so now hold on. I want to try mesh to points. This is where I bang my head at you. But like, yeah, you're right. I want to get the output of my grid, and I want to convert it to points. And then I want to do points to, can I do points to selection? Points of curve, mesh to points. Points to volume, points to vertices, points to curves. And then can I do curves to selection? No, to selection. Edge paths to selection. But I can't because I want, hold on. Can I do mesh to edge path? Edge path to curve. Edge path, no, darn it. I know. Oh my gosh. All I want to do is I want, this should be simple, right? But like it's not, and I don't know why it's not. I also want to try, I should make sure I have this all set up correctly. Geometry, and then mesh to points. Hold on. Try this again. I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try this. Okay. Are we getting somewhere? Let me try this instead. It's weird because like it is doing something. I just have no idea what it's doing, but I'm tempted to say that like I don't even think Blender knows what it's doing. Instance, let's change to point. Let's change to edge. Nope. Who asked this question? Once you figure this out, you'll have to put the relative nodes in a fence called the Elizabeth method. Elizabeth, darn it, you're giving me a headache. Is it possible to delete the points from the distribute points node? Oh, I don't know. Let's try. I'm willing to try anything on this because this is see, like distribute points on faces. Hold on, let me add that here. All right, so here's our distribute points. Okay, let's plug in our geometry of our grid. Delete this, and then let's take the normal and plug it into our selection. That didn't work, but it's cool that it did something. Instead of random, let's do density. Let's raise that up. Genuinely don't know like what this thing's trying to do right now. I also wonder, like with our grid, it is kind of like a weird like value right now. Like even the grid's kind of acting weird. Like I have an idea, and it's kind of crazy, and I have no idea if it's gonna work. But you can do booleans, right? Or instead of deleting, can't we place the building instances on the faces of the grid? Yes. So actually, Elizabeth, what you're saying right now is like kind of partially thinking of, but I was thinking of doing the opposite, like taking the grid, like extruding it, and then using a boolean to like delete everything else. So let me just see, because well, the funny thing about booleans is there's like a boolean to cut a mesh, which is mesh boolean, but then there's also a boolean to like say this or that. So like he said, I love crazy. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. We have a mesh, which is okay. I think this might be a good idea. We're gonna take our grid, right? We're gonna extrude it upwards, and we're going to use that as a boolean to delete the buildings. I kind of want to make like a small scale test to see if this works, because I'm just genuinely curious, but I'm also like, if I do this, this is going to be, I mean, look, this thing's already crazy. All right, I want to do a mesh boolean instead of delete geometry. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to do a mesh boolean between this mesh and another mesh. Let's just do a quick test. Let's do a cube, and I'm gonna plug it into the mesh 2. Okay, there's our cube. Let's reverse these. Hold on. You guys see where I'm going with this? Anyone see where I'm going with this? Okay, we're getting somewhere. Okay, here's how I know we're getting somewhere. The buildings are intercepting the cube. So instead of difference, we're gonna want to do no, we want difference. Wait. I'm thinking. The cube is working, but we don't want, do we want it to be reversed? This guy and then this guy? No, we want, it was just working. What the heck? How do we, oh wait. Okay, here and here. No. Here and here. So I wonder what would cost more weight to the file. Adapting the grid to have first generate something and then delete it again seems like workaround for me, but might work. Yeah, it's so tough to tell anymore. Also, what the heck is float or exact? Try exact. Yo, Blender did not like that. Blender did not like that. No. Praying here. If this for some reason crashes Blender, though, I'm going to try a small scale test. Now they're only appearing on the cube. So you guys will see where I'm going with this, though. I actually think this might be a really good idea, and if I can get the boolean to work properly, then what I'll do is I will then just extrude the grid up. I need to like try something. I don't know why the mesh boolean is being weird like this. So that's a difference. but we want the cube to take away everything else. What is this? Oh, this is the original plane. Okay. Hold on, I'm thinking. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I know you guys are gonna get mad at this, but I'm gonna make a new file real quick because I want to try something in Geometry Nodes. It didn't crash, I know. All right, just real quick, guys, bear with me because I want to try something out. Okay, I'm going to do mesh to points. Okay, I'm also going to subdivide this a bunch because I want to see if this is going to work. All right, mesh to points, join geometry, blah, blah, blah. Geometry to geometry. And then I want to add a cube in the middle. I'm going to add the cube myself. And I want this to cut everything else. But mesh to points and then points, instance on points. I want to instance a cube everywhere. And I want to make it like 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Okay, I want this cube to cut into the other cubes. To do that, I will use a mesh boolean, and I will do object info. I will select my cube, and I will cut. Hold on. Cut like this. Difference. Intersect. Union. No, I want difference. What? Hold on. I do feel like this should be working, right? It's difference, right? Difference is the difference of the two, right? Do I have to apply my scale? Object apply scale. Okay, applying scale helped. Now, why would this not work though? Oh, do I have to convert to mesh? Maybe I have to do this after I join the geometry. Let me try something. Is this gonna work? No. Exact, float, intersect, union. Oh, well, that's another reason why that didn't work. I want difference, and I want this here. No, I want this one. Look, oh my God, good Lord. Hold on, we're gonna get it. There we go. There should be an easier way to toggle that. What? Does anyone see where I'm going with this, but it's just not working? I remember last week I was making something with Geometry Nodes on my PC. Blue screen. No, that's the worst. All I'm trying to do is literally cut. You know what? Let's not even let's get rid of this. Let me just see if this is even working at all. Okay, there's our cubes, right? We're going to take our geometry and we're going to cut into this. Like, why isn't it working? It should be working, right? Am I tripping, guys? Like, what? I'm changing the settings. We got our instances, which is a mesh. I'm using the difference boolean operation, which should be cutting out those pieces. Intersect is not even going to do anything. Union is the opposite. It adds everything together. But this, why would this not, like, why would it not work? I really genuinely don't understand why this is not working. The only thing I can think of is maybe there's too many cubes, but no, that can't be right, right? Even when I turn off X-ray mode, we're not getting like... Anybody else like got any solution to this? Because this is whack. This should not be happening at all. Mesh boolean relative maybe? No. As an instance? No. That's not going to work either. This is like, I feel like we're so close, and do we just have to hide the cube? Like, I don't... No, okay. Like, why would we be getting that though? Try something. I have an idea. Every time I have an idea though, it doesn't work. I said, is there an invert node to flip the selection? I thought about that. Let's try it. Let's try it. Maybe there's an invert node. Invert the matrix. Hold on. Selection, maybe. I apologize if you guys see me like intensely staring at the screen, but like I'm trying so hard to figure this out right now, and it's gonna drive like I'm not getting off this live stream until I figure this out. Like I'm not gonna like remove my butt from this chair until I figure this stupid thing out. Anybody else with me? Like, we have to figure this out. I'm gonna lose it. I need coffee. Be back in 5. Flipped color ramp. Can you do a color ramp in geometry nodes? Like, what? What? Didn't know you could do a color ramp in geometry nodes. That's cool. How does that work? Hold on. I mean, let's think this through and break down the steps, because I think if we break down the steps, that we can figure it out together. Let's figure this out together. We have our group input, which is a plane. We convert that to points on the vertices. I flip this. What? Like, what's happening now? That's kind of promising, though. Oh, wait, the radius. Maybe the radius is messing it up. Oh, wait. What's happening? No. Okay. All right. Backtrack. Mesh to points, which means we have a cube. Okay, mesh to points and then instance on points. We have a cube that is instanced, right? And then we're taking that and we're cutting into it with a cube. Maybe we don't take a cube. Maybe we take a generated cube from like geometry nodes instead of the actual object. Well, at least we know it's still working, kind of. But then the question is, why is it not cutting the boolean properly? Like, what are we doing? What am I doing wrong here? Does this cube, my other idea is maybe the size of the cubes, like, is it the amount of vertices? I'm bumping up the vertices on the cubes. It shouldn't change anything. It is changing things though, which is really weird. Let's try 0.4 for the size of the cubes. I'm switching the solver to exact. And now Blender's frozen. Maybe remove the points before everything else. Wait, I'm sorry. When you say remove the points, do you mean like, how do you remove the, can you remove the points? Come on, Blender. You're embarrassing me. This is a dangerous game we're playing here with geometry nodes. But hopefully you guys got some good like value out of this so far. Is everyone still enjoying the live stream? We still got, what do we got? 63 people watching. That's good. What? Like what? Anyone else seeing this? What is this nonsense? Now we got like some kind of Minecraft block. Like, what is happening here? It's cool looking like shape, but switch this back to float, whatever the heck that means. And let's do delete points. Oh no, delete geometry. The cube only has 8 verts or 8 points. Wouldn't we need more for it to intersect? Well, that's what I was wondering. Realize instances. That's the node I've been thinking about. Thank you. Who just said that? Leo. If this works, Leo, you are hired, my friend. Okay. This is a really good sign. Now I'm wondering if we flip this guy. Okay, now hold on. Okay, Leo. I think. Wait, what did you say? Flip normals and then intersect the cub. Oh, the cube. The cub. We must intersect the cub. Flip faces. What? Oh! Wait, what? Leo, where have you been this whole time? Flip faces? Okay, we're getting somewhere. Now, what am I doing wrong here? Hold on. 2, 2, 2. We're like totally getting somewhere here, but I just don't know like why this is being weird. Oh, you know what? I should probably save this. There you go. I started to learn Blender 2 days ago. I'm very confused, yet here to stay. What is the issue we're dealing with? Even Philip, welcome. Issue we're dealing with right now is the fact that I don't know anything about geometry nodes when I thought that I did. Actually, so Philip, we're using geometry nodes, which is like, I don't even know how to begin to explain. Geometry nodes is like a way to give a set of instructions to Blender to tell it to make something with meshes and intersections and instancing. It's like a way to make really anything that you want to. And right now we're stuck on a problem where we're trying to cut a selection with a boolean and it's just not working. I don't know how much you know about Blender, but first of all, congrats and welcome to the Blender community, Philip. I hope you love it so far. It is it's a labyrinth, it's a maze. You will go down the rabbit hole. Right now we're so far in the rabbit hole, like I don't know. I have turned into a rabbit and I'm a little lost, but that's okay because we have some amazing people like Leo helping us in the chat getting through these tough times within Blender. Let me try this too. I'm adjusting the size of our cube here. All right. It was weird because earlier when I had it like this, oh, no, of course, now it's not going to work. Hold on. Blender's going to freeze on me. Don't you do it. All right, there we go. See, like, that looks like it's starting to work, which is so weird. You're realizing the instances, and then we're flipping the faces of the instances. I don't know why. And then we're taking a mesh boolean. Do we really need to join geometry? I wonder if that's messing it up. I don't think we need to join the geometry at all. Rabbit holes. I had a similar problem when I was trying to create a raised monorail using a boolean to interrupt support columns. Leo, how did you get past that? Because I genuinely like feel like I have a good understanding of how this should work, and it's just not working. And it's strange because I don't know, this should be working, right? Also, I forgot to hide the cube in the middle. That was my fault. I probably should have hidden that original cube. That is my fault. But if we adjust this, oh, you know what'll be a good like indicator if this is working or not though, is join geometry and then just like there's our cube, and everything outside of it should be smaller cubes, which is not happening, and I'm wondering why. Try float now. The cube should disappear. Float, you said? Thank you. I'm enjoying your series. Good luck with the geometry mesh boolean vertices joining. Sorry, cannot be of assistance. It's okay. For some reason, the realized instances flip the face, which I think is a bug. Oh, that's so weird. Let me try this. What? Like, what? Confusion is strong with this one. Is the plane It is subdivided. Faces? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. Who said want a carrot? Get out of here. All right. This is, oh my god, this is so frustrating. Okay, let's rethink. I'm gonna rethink the problem again. Okay, so we have cubes. We want to delete some of those cubes with a selection, and maybe the selection instead of a cube. Let's see something. Just delete all these things. Leo, you're fired. Yo, Leo. Leo, I'm sorry, but your services are no longer needed at this company. Blender, come on, dude. I really don't think I'm asking a lot of Blender right now. I literally just clicked delete on the node. Leo, this is all... Actually, Elizabeth, this is all your fault. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Incorruptus says... Okay, there we go. All right. So I'm going to start over real quick. Let's start here. Okay. I'm also going to plug a value node into the cube so that we can just like have like a few cubes like this. Okay, so we have cubes and we want to delete certain parts of these cubes. Maybe we want to delete them with a grid. And let's do delete geometry. And then let's do this. Let's do so like maybe not point but instances. Delete the instances. And for the selection, could we do random? Will this work? I feel like this will work. Integer? Oh, okay. That's a good start. That's a good start. 1 and 2. Oh. Okay. So that's like, this is like promising for me because this means we can delete selected, sort of like pre-selected things. But the question is, do we get a random value? Okay, now hold on. Do we get a random value from like grid? Can we get, is a UV map like a vector? I mean, I guess it is. Let me also join this. I think Kenny can't see. Wait, what? Oh my gosh, guys, hold on. Why am I seeing all of these? Oh, hold on, I just missed a ton of comments. I'm so sorry. You know, if you press M, you can mute a node. I did not know that. You don't have to delete the connection and reconnect. Sheila, I did not know that. Let me just try that real quick. What? Sheila, I did not know that. That is awesome. Put a flipped color ramp after the mesh boolean. Blender, come on, dude. Yeah, hey, I mean, Blender, yeah, I don't know what gender Blender would be. Rolling on the floor laughing. I didn't mean to, Sheila, I didn't mean to ignore you. That was never intentional. But I do want to re-add this so I can see the grid and like where it is. Also, with the grid, oh my gosh, I have too many thoughts in my brain. Let me just bump this up. I want to add a extrude. Excuse me. There we go. Okay. We have the edges. I just want to extrude the edges a little bit, and I want to see how we can take the grid and then delete the instances that we don't want. Random vector value? Is that possible? I don't know. Guys, I literally have no clue. But I feel like we're onto something. Or maybe I'm onto something? Oh, hold on. Maybe? Shit, okay, thanks. I'm sorry, Sheila. I'm sorry. Sheila, can we remain friends? Let's see. We got the grid. That is good. And then we need to delete the things that the grid overlaps with. Oh, wait. Let's see this. Point? Nah, I like instance, I feel like was better, right? Let me put this random value in here. We want it to be a float? Boolean. I'm just beyond confused. Hold on. Let's say you're getting closer. So only, what if it overlaps? I know. It's funny because like when I started this live stream, I did know that I wasn't an expert in geometry nodes, so I want you guys to know that I really am trying here. But I think we did a really good job with the city and kind of like understanding how all that works. But I just really genuinely think like with this whole grid thing, there just has to be a way to easily take the grid mesh and then delete the points where the mesh is, right? What if you take a separate XYZ node and pipe it after the random value and then the grid after the separate XYZ? So the grid is based on the random node. Huh, yeah, let's try it. Separate XYZ. I'm assuming you mean like this. Oops. Do you mean like this? Maybe I'm completely misinterpreting what you're talking about. Or did you mean something different? Because I think I mistake. Did we try geometry proximity node and check the distance that is smaller value and then delete the point? I did not. But I also want to try one more thing. Sorry, guys. I just want to try one more thing. Hold on. Needs to be a vector node. Oh, right. Ah, vector. Is it vector math? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then separate XYZ. Whoa. Oh. Okay, hold on. This 2-minute slowdown is so annoying. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It says I have a perfect connection, which is really, really annoying because it should be perfect, right? Okay, so the question is, how do I get the point data from the grid? Like, how do I get that? I'm trying to think. Is it edge? It's like, I know that you can do like an edge split. That doesn't really do anything for me. Guys, I'm really sorry, but I really have to use the restroom. So if you just want to give me like 1 second, I would be literally right back. And then comment below what you think I should do next. Thank you, guys. I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second. Thank you guys for waiting. Much appreciated. All right. In the chat, we can't quickly type also. Wait, what? Really? Hold on. Let me see that. Where's there's settings for that? I think actually I might have set the limit on the timing for that, but I'll adjust that next time. That's my fault. Coffee After Effects kicking in. You need to store the data, in my opinion, so that means the grid needs to be named as an attribute and then store the name attribute and then retrieve it. Well, I kind of recreated a mesh-based version that I would say is fully procedural and definitely the opposite of what we're going for here. I hope he washed his hands. Yo, Hidden Force. Finish. Hold on. Okay. Wait. Hold on 1 second, guys. Okay, sounds good. I'm still live streaming. When I'm done, I'll come up and say hi, though. Okay. All right. Turn the random value into a vector first. Okay. And then separate the XYZ and pipe the XYZ into the grid size. I know it won't let me, though, for some reason. So, like, check it. Hold on. So if we do this, so I can't actually, I can't put the separate XYZ into these values, which is really weird. And I never understood. I guess just the diamond is a vector and then the circle is like a, just like a regular value. Can we convert? Is there like a convert? How is there no convert? There's gotta be, right? Is it vector? Mix vector? Nah. Wife needs you to do shopping? Nah, my wife is coming back with some friends, and I gotta go say hi to him because I haven't seen him in a while. So, yeah. Oh man. Time is anyway 2:02. Is anyone from the East Coast here? This geometry node is gonna drive me up a wall, though. I'm trying to remember stuff that I did from my last project because it might help with this project and trying to figure out, why this grid can't delete those cubes. We did realize instances, didn't we? Didn't we realize the instances? What? Oh, wait. Edge. There we go. Oh, wait. Huh? That's kind of an interesting thing. Nah. It's 3 a.m. Come back to this tomorrow. I can't. I go back to work tomorrow. I'm a full-time teacher, and today's my last day of summer, so tomorrow I have to go back to work and get ready for the following week when the kids come back. So unfortunately, I won't be live streaming like during this time during the week, but I'll see if I can find some time, like, maybe like 3 or 4, probably like maybe 4 p.m. EST. The gray circles are floats, aren't they? And then the diamonds are vectors, correct? Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. The coffee option? What? All right. How about this, guys? Let's start kind of like wrapping the stream up, but I know. I'll miss you guys too for sure. Let's start like wrapping this up. Maybe we can do like another quick example of something. Victor, that's an interesting question. So I try to fill the squares in the grid with volumes. With a volume instead of lines. I don't know. I haven't tried that. So what is it? Volume? Volume cube or meshed volume? Mesh to volume. Oh, try this. There we go. All right, so you're saying grid mesh to volume like this. And then use nodes to position the points at the top of the faces. What do you do? Volume to points or something? Volume to points to volume? Hold on, distribute points in volume. Ah, there we go. And then what do you do? Instance on points. Like this. And then, I don't know, cube. Am I doing this right? I feel like I'm not doing this right. This seems like how it should be set up. Hold on. What do we think? What do we think? Yes, no, maybe so. All right, should we shift topics for a little bit? I feel like I completely ignored another thing. The density of specific buildings and collections. Let's do this one real quick because this one is going to, like, it's going to be like the death of me. Like this, like, they're going to be like, how did Kenny die? And this is going to be how. Because I stared at the screen for so long that I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't drink water. And then I just passed away because I was on Blender for, like, abnormal amount of time trying to figure this one out. All right, let's go ahead and do this one because I think number 2 is going to be an easy one to actually figure out. Density of specific buildings. So yeah, so this should be pretty easy to do. The only hard part about this one is we're going to need a way to make sure they're not overlapping, which is the hardest part. You're going to keep figuring out how to do this. Maybe I'll get something. I feel like deleting the points should make it work. Please add the, oh yeah. Okay, yeah, okay, hold on. The draw, annotate, to curve instance. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna make a new file. I'm not gonna save this one because I should be able to easily recreate that monstrosity. I'm gonna add in a plane. I'm gonna go to Geometry Nodes, New. I'm gonna make a new collection. I'm just gonna do a cube. I'm gonna keep this simple. Cube. We'll do a sphere, and then we'll do a cone, and then I'll just simply add all of those. What was it? Oh yeah, I'm gonna add everything except for my plane into a collection. I'm gonna call it density. You are my density. Who knows what movie that's from? $1 million if you know what movie that's from. You better know because that's like a classic movie. Okay, I'm going to hide this thing. I'm going to go ahead and do distribute points on faces. I'm going to do join geometry. I am going to go ahead and do this. Oh boy, the girls are here. I hear the girls. Please add blah, 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 blah. If I figure it out, let you know. Absolutely. Now, in terms of instance on points, you're going to want to plug that in right after distribute. And then this is where we'll do our collection. But in this case, I'm actually going to do something a little different because I want to have 3 different sections so we can adjust the density. You'll see what I mean in a second. So right now, this is the density right here. Good example, this would be like, you would do like object info. I would choose maybe like my sphere, plug it in as the instance. Oops. Plug in the geometry as the instance, and then we'll just scale it down, maybe like 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Okay, maybe even more. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Okay, so here's our spheres, right? We can adjust the density of the spheres, and then what I would probably do is just like plug this in here, right? And be able to adjust the density on the right, and then I would duplicate this, right? So now we have our second instance right here. I would do that and this, and then what I would do is I would swap this out with the cube, okay? And then the only problem with this is now we have our density right here. Actually, I'm gonna want to do this. I'm gonna want to do that and this. I know this is kind of hard to follow, but I promise you this will probably work. And are we joining all the geometries together? We should be. We have a sphere, we have a cube, instance, distribute points on faces, random. And then maybe the selection here, that's where we can like decide, okay, do we want to make sure they don't overlap, right? So there we go. So now we have both the cubes and the spheres. We just need to make sure they don't overlap, but this is how I'll be able to adjust the density. And then I would just use an unconnected socket and then go here and just start naming the sockets. This one would be sphere density. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Sphere density, cube density, and then right here I would just adjust these values. See? Like this. Easy. And then you could also adjust the randomness as well. That's how I would go about doing that, and then you just need to solve the problem of like you don't want these to intersect. So to make sure that they don't intersect, you would need to do this method, Poisson disk or Poisson disk, however you say that, and then make sure your distance minimum is set to, I don't know, like what would be a good value? Maybe like 0.25. And we'll do the same thing down here. And 0.25. And we're good. And then I think you just need to adjust the density right here. But it looks like they're still overlapping. So I don't know how you would get that. You would need to get that selection and make sure that it is different for each one, if that makes sense. So that's tough, because how do you density factor? Okay, maybe you can choose a different seed. Are you guys still following? I'm sorry. I know this is kind of like a big mess, but I'm thinking this is kind of like how you would go about doing this. And then maybe you didn't want any spheres. You type in, oh, I gotta reconnect the sphere density. Maybe you type in 0. Now you want a bunch of spheres. You raise that density value. Same thing with our cube density, right? I don't know if this is making sense or if I'm just blabbing on. You guys can tell me if I'm blabbing on, because if I am, I'll slow down a little bit. But yeah, this looks correct. This is how you would do the distribute thing. Okay. All right. Now, last but not least, let's go over the annotation thing. Change one of the minimums to something different than the first one. Oh, the distance minimum. There you go. 0.1. But then look, we can adjust the density right here. It's crazy. I subdivided the crap out of that. And then now we can like raise the density, and we can do like 0.02, 0.02, 0.02. And then we can do the same with the scale down here, 0.02, 0.02, 0.02. And then we can simply raise the density over here. Pretty cool. I'm going to change the distance though, the distance maximum. There we go. Look at that. Very cool. All right, let's try the annotation thing next, because I feel like that could be really cool. I'm just going to call this density changer. I think you can do like, I'm going to use ChatGPT real quick, but I'm pretty sure you can do like annotation drawing to curve in Geometry Nodes. To convert an annotation drawing to a curve in Geometry Nodes, follow these steps. Create the annotation. In object mode, select your annotation, go to object mode, convert to curve. With the newly converted curve, select the Geometry Nodes modifier. Yes, but shouldn't this also work on the buildings and the street? The Poisson disk? Poisson disk? Yes. Are you talking about having the buildings avoid the street? I don't think so, because I think it's random. I'm pretty sure this is like a random, like distribute points on faces. So, all right, this will be the last thing we do, and then I'm gonna go and be social with my wife's friends. Let me just hold on. What am I looking at here? Oh, so it's annoying because it's saying you have to convert the annotation to a curve first in like object menu, but I'm wondering, no, you can do, hold on a second. Nah, that's not right. Because I've seen these add-ons people make, right? They take the annotation tool, whatever, they draw something, and then how do you access that? I know there's a way. Oh, I don't remember. Is it just freehand curve tool? Maybe that's it. I don't like the manual process. That doesn't sound like what I would want. Let's do this. Add a curve. Okay. Or no, add curve. Can't you just do like a curve drawing? I thought you could, no? I really thought you could. Here, hold on. Let me look. Options. Nah, because I've seen this done before. Freehand curve tool. Where's that? Maybe I don't have that enabled. Where's freehand curve tool at? Curve. I don't really do curve stuff a lot. Oh, I got you. So you're saying tab into edit mode, delete everything, and then annotate, or, oh, here we go, draw. Ah, okay. Thank you. All right, so let's do this. Sorry, that was a very exaggerated thank you. Let's do curve to mesh. I just want to see if this is going to work. Extrude mesh. Extrude edges. There we go. Okay, so now if we go in here, right, and we draw, it turns into something. Okay, this is great. This is good. This is actually really cool. Okay, so now what was the question that you wanted to do? We go back. Annotate curve instance. Okay, so I need to go back up to your question. Yours, who asked that? That was Iconic. All right, Iconic, I'm so sorry it took this long to get to this. What was your question? Iconic, you're gonna kill me, but can you add your question again? I'm sorry. I don't remember what you asked the first time. I know it had to do with this though, but this is really cool because then maybe we can like draw. Oh, was it trash bags? It was like something with trash bags. I feel like that's what it was. Like you were saying like wherever we draw like there's a trash bag. Let's do curve to mesh and then let's do mesh to points. Oops. Mesh to points. And boom. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll do like the radius. If we lower the radius, not the radius, I'm sorry, distribute. Yeah, how long have I been streaming for? I don't even know. How long has it been? Thank you, CG Cookie. It's about instancing car trash bags on a drawing. I made a curve tool for scattering pigeons in simple crowds. Oh, cool. Anyway, instance on points. And let's add a bag of trash, which could be an icosphere because that shape is trash. Kidding. Icospheres are great. And there you go. There's your trash bags. That's cool. Okay, that wasn't too hard. And then I guess at this point what you would want to do is you would want to probably randomly select like how many trash bags you want along that curve. Ah, this is cool though. Actually, now I feel like I have a billion ideas for like what I could do with this. That's cool. You could just like draw on like some cool thing on a character. Make like a roller coaster with this. Oh yeah, there's a lot you could do with this. This is really, Really neat. Thank you for showing me this. And then you tab out of edit mode and you're good to go. Zoop. This is really neat. I learned something new today. Very fun. This is awesome. Good stuff. So does that kind of answer your question? Iconic, or did I... Next stream is all trash bags. Should we make a trash bag? I guess I have to make a trash bag real quick. Icosphere, scale it up. We'll just we'll grab this top area here, and then we'll just use some proportional editing here. Scale that in, maybe bring it up, and then we'll go ahead and add these. What do you get? Like a little thing on each side, right? This is like the twisty knot. Can that be the trash can? Or sorry, trash bag rather. How's that for a trash bag? That does not look like a trash bag. We're gonna use it anyway. How about that? We'll hide it, and then we'll go here to geometry nodes, and we'll do object info. We will select our guy right here. Oh boy, we need to scale elements. Why did everything get separated? What the heck? I thought I joined the geometry. What's going on with that? What? Oh, hold on. Uniform, single axis. What? Oh, no. Yo, what is happening? I don't know what I did, but I think he implied the scale on the original. Oh, yeah, duh. Thank you. Object, apply, scale. Saved by the bell. Okay. There we go. I guess scaling the instances makes more sense. And we'll just add a value node. Does that, hey, iconic, is that good for what you were looking for, kind of, or what do we think? Good, bad, maybe so? Decent? All right, we've talked about geometry nodes for a very long time. Convert the curve into a mesh, then set the distribute points to the poison disk and set the max distance. Okay. Oh, I gotcha. Distribute points on faces. Poison disk. Oh, wait. Well, I think... Oh, here we go. Mesh to points. Mesh to faces. Maybe vertices. Wait, edges. Hold on. This might not work. I mean, because it's not really like a... Well, I guess, hold up. Curve to mesh. And then you could, I guess you could extrude it. Hold on. Extrude mesh. And then you'd have faces, right? And then you would do this. Let me just see if this is going to work. It's great. Thank you. Let's try this again. I mean, in order to lower the amount, I would just go to random value. I would plug it in here. And I would just adjust this too. I mean, that's another way to just like randomize it. This is really cool because you can like draw. I mean, I can imagine the use for this. And then you just adjust these values, right? I can already imagine some cool stuff you could do with this. This is really interesting. All right, guys. Well, listen, we have been live streaming for 2.5 hours, and I think it is time to wrap things up. I'm gonna go get something to eat. I'm kind of starving. I had a blast with this, with doing geometry nodes and just having fun with it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and you were able to take some useful knowledge away from this. I had a blast. This was fun. We'll definitely do this again. I'm going back into school this week, so I'll be quite busy, but I hope you guys have a great day, good rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you guys in the next live stream or the next tutorial. Have a good day, have a good night, have a good evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. And we will talk very soon, hopefully. In the meantime, make sure you guys pay attention to the polls that CG Cookie is putting out. And also feel free to check out CG Cookie Core Fundamentals. All right, they're out right now. I teach the physics part of it. Hopefully, you know, who knows, maybe one day I'll be well-versed in geometry nodes and I can teach that as well. Good day for you and good work week. Thank you very much. Cool, I'm going to recreate your city again. Awesome. Love that. Have fun with it, guys. And I hope you enjoyed. I really do, because again, a lot of this stuff is just like fun for me too. And it's good learning experience for me as well as for you guys too. We're always learning. Remember, like, you may never know all of it, but you'll still continue to learn. Just build on what you have and continue to build on those current skills. Try new things, try to break things, try to fix them, and have fun. Like, just have fun with it. It's not, Blender should never be taken too seriously. Like, it's a fun tool to use and it's completely free. So that's never going to change, which is awesome. That's why we love Blender. So guys, have a great day and I will see you in the next